Hi, my name is Moira Cook, and I am District Director of the Vermont Department of Health Middlebury office. We serve all of Addison County with a variety of public health programs, including the WIC program, chronic disease prevention, and emergency preparedness programs. I'm also the convener of the Addison County Committee on Opiate Addiction. We're a group of community members who are focused on addressing the needs of those who are struggling with opiate addiction in our community. Today, we're talking about recovery, and I'm really pleased to be here with Bill Brim. He's the Executive Director of the Turning Point Center of Addison County. And before I get into a lot of questions, Bill, I just want to mention that the Turning Point Center of Addison County is a part of the Vermont Recovery Network.
That's correct.
Yeah, and there are 12 other centers around the state, and so we'll be talking about programs in Addison County, but there are other similar programs offered across the state. So welcome to the show, Bill. Thanks so much for coming. And let's start with the name. Can you just tell us the significance of the name Turning Point of Addison County? What does Turning Point mean for you?
Well, Turning Point Center was established here in Addison County in 2006, and that's when they opened their doors. A lot of the centers across the state were started up as like 12-step group clubs.
Mm-hmm.
As the years went on, we started working more closely with the different organizations, and each one is a nonprofit organization in its own entity, but we are networked together, and we meet every 6 weeks, and we follow core services. Turning Point is a place for, in my words, what Turning Point is, a place where a person seeking recovery can go and find a new direction. They can find help, and they can find peer support.
That's great. So what are the missions? Or do you all have the same mission, or are there 12 different missions? And what's Addison County's mission?
I wish I'd have brought that copy with me so I could read it to you. But the Turning Point Center is, and in general, the mission is that it's a safe place for a person in recovery. So you know that when you go there, you're going to be in a place that there's not a person there, hopefully not selling drugs or whatever, but you're going to meet up with peers, people that have gone down to some of the same paths as you have. And that's one of the main missions, is to have a safe place where a person seeking recovery and in recovery can come.
That's great. So I love the idea of it being a place the turning point meaning a place to get a new direction on your life, and the idea of having a safe place is fantastic. So do they all call themselves Turning Points, or are there lots of different names for these recovery centers?
There's a lot of them with the Turning Point written in their name, but there are a few that have different names. But they are still a member of the Vermont Recovery Network of the 12 centers.
So at the end of this show, we'll have the website address for the Vermont Recovery Network, and then if, for folks in Addison County, you are the resource, but if people in other places around the state can go to the Vermont Recovery Network and get contact information.
Absolutely.
Great. So tell us a little bit about your background and how you came to be the Executive Director of the Turning Point.
Well, I'm retired from the fire service in Central Florida, and I've always had in my heart, I guess, of helping people. And when I retired, I found that there was something missing out of my life, and I saw that there was a need for a new director at the Turning Point Center, and I was asked if I would take that position, and I've been director there a little over 3 years now, and it has filled that spot for me. I get a chance to help people. I get a chance to tell people my story as well as hear theirs, and hopefully help them.
That's great. That's great. So tell us a little bit about the programming. What do you offer at the Addison County Turning Point Center?
Well, the center is, like I said, a safe place for folks can come to, but we also rent space or give space out to the 12-step programs as people seem fit or need to want to start a program. The Addison County Turning Point Center is not don't want to be construed as a 12-step program. It is just a place where the groups can meet.
Okay.
We do have facilitated programs also. We have all recovery group meetings. We have a group called Making Recovery Easier, which is a 6-session group that is facilitated to help folks understand the different 12-step programs. And whenever they finish up this program, they're given us a certificate. And it's not to push them into 12-step programs, it's to help them to understand them so that their misconceptions are answered. We also have medication-assisted recovery support. We have a pathway guide. Her name is Ramona Akbusani, and she's available to folks that are on their path to recovery through medication-assisted treatment. She's considered, we call her the pathway guide, and every center has one.
Oh, great.
She works very closely with Dr. Emily Glick in her office at Bristol Internal Medicine, and with CSAC and all the other treatment providers and hubs and spokes in the community.
Yeah, that's
And
great.
we also have, we call it sober activities, which is folks can just come in and play cards. They can. We have one where one of our volunteers teaches some cooking techniques and healthy cooking and a little bit of gardening. My assistant Joe Pearl runs a pottery class.
Oh, that's great.
And so there's several things. Things change throughout the year as people ask for different things. So yes, like I said, it's a safe place for folks to come that are in recovery.
So that's really helped clear up some things I didn't know, Bill. I didn't realize that you were housing but not necessarily the host of the 12-step programs in the community. And then the just idea of how holistic your program is at the Turning Point Center, from medication-assisted recovery to pottery and gardening. It's just fantastic.
Well, we try to make it so it's like I said, a friendly and light atmosphere for folks to come to. The hardest part sometimes for a person struggling with addiction and wanting to get into recovery is opening the doors to help. The stigmas are attached to that, and we're trying to break those barriers down. We're trying to have folks understand that, there is help out there available. We see folks from all different walks of life, and we don't look down on them. Everybody's got their story, and we try to help them. And the only way you can get help is to ask for it. It's available if you reach out, and we have some great volunteers and great board members. All of them are compassionate people, and so they can come to the center and they can get help.
That's great. Can you tell us a little bit about what 12-step programs are all about? What are they, and what do they look like? I know they're not your programs, but for people who've never been acquainted with recovery programs, what does that look like?
Well, 12-step programs were established back with AA, with Dr. Bob and Bill Wilson. And both those folks are from Vermont.
I didn't know that.
A lot of people don't know that. One of them is Dr. Bob's house. Bill Wilson's house is down in Wallingford, or Dorset, I'm sorry, and Dr. Bob's is over in St. Johnsbury, I think it is. But they're 12-step programs, and they're based on 12 steps to recovery and 12 traditions of how a group should be run. And one of the main traditions is the fact that they don't align themselves with any organization.
Oh, okay.
So that keeps them, separate from what's happening in the political arena or politics, or they don't. You don't see advertisements on TV and stuff like that. It's more of a word of mouth. 12-step programs, are not all folks agree with 12-step programs. A lot of times it's because they don't understand them.
Right.
And So the Making Recovery Easier group that I mentioned earlier will
Tell
help.
us about that a little bit more.
Well, what that is we go over different 4 different sections of the 12-step programs. One of them is spirituality, what that really means, and it also go over sponsorship and what that means, and so it's a pretty in-depth class.
It's sort of an introduction.
Introduction to 12-step program.
So what to expect if you're needing, a recovery support, and this is a good path for you, but here, let us lay it out for you. That's a great service because, it may be intimidating for somebody to walk into
Absolutely.
that setting.
And there are several 12-step programs going on in the center besides just AA. That's just where it was kind of established from.
Yeah.
We have NA, which is Narcotics Anonymous. We have OA, which is Overeaters Anonymous. We have Al-Anon, and we have Nar-Anon, which are for friends and family of folks that are in recovery. So that helps them understand what that person is going through.
Can you talk a little bit more about the services you provide for friends and family? Because, is the turning, I understand that your Turning Point Center is your main audience, your target population are the people who are struggling with addiction and looking to recover their lives. Mm-hmm. But what kind of services can you provide for friends and family who may be concerned or supporting somebody in their recovery?
A lot of folks come to us or even call me. I get a call maybe once a day about a family member that's struggling with addiction, and a lot of times I direct them to the friends and family groups, which are the 12, the Nar-Anon, the
Okay.
Al-Anon groups, and that gives them the reason why I direct them there, because I know that they're going to find out exactly what's going on from other folks that are dealing with
Mm-hmm.
it, what's going on with this person's life. I also suggest that they get involved with a recovery coach, even though they're not in recovery themselves.
Right.
We have recovery coaches at the center. I think right now we have 8 or 9.
That's
and,
fantastic. 8 recovery coaches.
Yeah, and they're available to anybody struggling with an addiction and or are in recovery. And what a recovery coach does is they give ideas. They start on a matrix type situation where the most important problems that they're going through is handled first, and they work down from that. So where they're in crisis, could be housing or whatever, and they offer suggestions of how they can work through that. And we don't do the work for the people. We collaborate with all the organizations in Addison County and surrounding communities so that we understand what these other organizations have available, so folks, when they come to us and they're having problems with finding a place to live or finding heating assistance and stuff like that, we can direct them to these. And that's so the recovery coaches, in essence, the job is to ask leading questions and try to pull information out of a person so that they're able to tackle some of the problems. And a lot of times just talking to somebody and getting that information out, it's not as big of a problem as they feel it is. It's really amazing what recovery coaches do.
So tell me, who's a recovery coach? Are they peers that have had some training? How do you become a recovery coach?
Well, the training is they go to the Recovery Coach Academy, which is approximately 40-hour training.
Oh wow, that's great.
And they're either peers or folks that have lived experiences with addiction issues, family members, or they've worked in the field, or what, that type of stuff. And we try to align anybody that comes in up with a coach that would fit what they're struggling with. Say if a person that's struggling with opiates addiction, we would try to line them up with a person that's been in recovery from opiate addiction.
Great.
So that they can kind of talk the talk and they understand where they're coming from. And they work, they set up appointments. They they come in maybe once a week or twice a week. It's between the coach and that person, and they come to the center. They got a room they can go to, quiet. They don't have, and they can talk one-on-one.
Great, that's great. So, for people who do know about 12-step programs, there are things. You have a sponsor, but this is a real resource person who may function like a sponsor, but may be able to provide resources as well.
Well, I think there's a huge difference between sponsors and a person that's helping a recovery coach, because of the fact sponsors work with a person through the steps of the 12-step program.
I see.
And they help them live their lives in that, in the 12 steps, and which are great. Sponsors are the lifeblood of a 12-step program. There's no doubt about it. Recovery coaches, they're more of a sounding board.
Okay.
And we are not licensed mental health counselors by no means. We are just peers or people that understand what this person's going through. And a lot of times it's just somebody that can befriend a person that's struggling, and they know that the information that they talk about is kept between them. Like I said, we are not licensed mental health counselors or clinicians, and so we definitely direct folks to the organizations and to the folks they need to see.
That's so. It sounds like you've mentioned this a couple times, and I think it's worth mentioning again. You're bound by some sort of confidentiality so that people do feel safe and secure in coming in.
Yes, we all of our volunteers, all of our coaches, anybody that volunteers or works at the center or whatever signs confidentiality agreements.
Great.
And we do have ethics guidelines. We are mandatory reporters, and that needs to be understood, because sometimes that needs to be taken care of,
right.
And we can't do anything about that. But we don't necessarily have to follow under HIPAA, because we don't keep records of folks. The records that are kept are in people's minds. They're not, we don't write anything down. We don't do an intake form. We don't do a discharge form. It's a very, one-on-one relationship.
Right. You're really focused on building relationships through your recovery coaches.
That's correct.
And then you talked about Ramona, your pathway guide, works a lot with counseling services, Bristol Internal Medicine. How does that work? How does she connect up with those programs on behalf of the folks who come to the recovery center?
Ramona came to our center from a grant that we received from SAMHSA. All the centers received a pathways guide. It was brought about because of the fact of the opiate issue that's going on in Vermont and across the United States. And so we got this grant. All the centers got a grant for one person to help with I guess it could be a part of the blueprint, and so that the doctors can send this person over to talk to Ramona if they're on medication-assisted treatment, and or if they're planning on going on medication-assisted treatment like Suboxone or methadone, to name a few. And they help she helps steer them through the same thing. She is a recovery coach herself.
Oh, great.
So she also follows some of the guidelines of that, but she directs her attention mostly towards folks that are addicted to opiates.
Okay, so she's a primary resource for those who are struggling with opiates. And just to point out, you said that there are recovery coaches, and are there recovery coaches in all 12 Turning Point centers, or is that unique to Addison County?
No, there's recovery coaches in all centers.
And pathway guides as well.
Pathway guides.
Oh, that's great.
Some have more than others,
Sure.
as the need comes, and we're lucky to have some great number of them, and so if anybody needs any help out there, please come by and I'll line you up with a coach.
That's great. So I don't want to forget to mention that the Turning Point Center of Addison County provides Naloxone or Narcan. Can you talk a little bit about that program and what Narcan is?
Narcan is an antagonist. Body produces an agonist. Body produces norepinephrine, which opiate acts as an agonist or mimics that. So that's the scientific thing. What Narcan does is it blocks the receptor sites, so that opiates generally cause a person to go into respiratory depression, and that is, that's what kills them. Narcan, when it's administered, blocks the receptor sites and so the person will start breathing again or increase their breathing. Narcan is administered through mist nasally.
Okay.
It's very easy to train someone. I train people there at the center in about 5 to 10 minutes, and they can walk away with it. So if you have somebody in your organization or in your family, friends that are using opiates, and you feel that you would like to have the Narcan, by all means come by. We have, you can come by pretty much any time and there's somebody there that can give it to you, but we do have Wednesdays set up from 9 to 12. And or you can call the center and we'll make sure somebody's there that can help you out. The Narcan it's been around a real long time. I used to use it as a paramedic in Central Florida, and it was injectable then, but this is a mist and it's absorbed through the mucous membranes in the back of your throat, so the person doesn't have to be breathing.
Okay. Oh, I see.
And so
it's a tool for families or friends who are concerned about a loved one who's using.
Absolutely.
And it has saved lives, I understand, in Addison County.
That's correct.
So it's important to get that message out that if you have family and friends that you're concerned about, call the center, stop by 9 to noon on Wednesdays to do the 5 to 10 minute training and get your free kit. It's all free of charge.
Yes, that's true. It's a grant pilot program that was put on by the state of Vermont, and whenever it came about, approximately 2 years ago, I was very much on board because I understood it. Not all the centers have it. I think there's a couple of them that do. Up in Chittenden County, it's available through through the Howard Center, and also in Rutland is through Westridge. So it's available. Check in your community if you're not in Addison County. If you are, then or if you want to travel to here, I'll be more than happy to help you out.
That's great. That's great. So we only have a few minutes left, and I just want to ask, what's the most pressing need? What are you seeing as you work day in and day out to help people recover their lives from addiction? What's needed in Addison County or Greater Vermont?
Well, in Addison County, one issue that is really pressing is the fact that we do not have any place for folks that are coming out of treatment and or out of corrections that have addiction issues and are trying to recover. One of the big issues is the fact that somebody comes out of treatment and they go right back to the location or the area where they were using before, or the situation they were in before, and it's kind of like a revolving door. You see, I talk to people who have been in treatment, 10 times,
Yeah.
and I feel real bad for them, but the situation is they don't have no place to go. So by saying that, Addison County needs to think about that population. They need to think about providing recovery residences for them for a short period of time till they can get on their feet.
Yeah.
So that's something that we're trying to work towards with the center. We'll see if we can make something happen in the future.
Yeah, we're hopeful that you can, but I know it's a daunting task.
It is a daunting task.
I want to ask one more question. Are you hopeful about where we're headed, and in terms of providing more services, getting more people into treatment?
I am hopeful for it. There's a lot has happened over the last 3 years that I've been here, and most of it is dealing with the collaboration efforts of the community. People are working together. Each organization reaches out to each other, and that's the way this is going to be handled. It's going to be handled not by one organization. It's going to be handled by all the organizations that are available. Not just one organization to take care of this problem.
That's right. Bill, I really want to applaud you and your staff at the Turning Point Center. You guys have done really great work, and you've been strong advocates for people who are struggling with addiction. And I really would encourage anyone who's interested in more information about the Turning Point Center or any resources around the state and in Addison County to go to addictionhelpvt.com. That's our website. The Vermont Recovery Network website is also listed at the end of this show. Thank you again, Bill. It was really great having you on the show today.
Thank you, Moira. Thank you very much.
Thanks.